Hi, and welcome to another episode where I take vintage drive-in speakers that have seen better days, clean them up, fix the internals, give them a paint job if they need them, and make them look fantastic and sound great once again. On the table today is something that's very near and dear to my heart because look here. This says Malta Drive-In Theater, and the Malta Drive-In Theater is actually still in existence today. It's just outside of Saratoga Springs, New York, maybe about 25 miles north of Albany. And these were engraved because if you drove off with the speaker, like maybe it was stuck to your car and you forgot to return it on the post before you drove away and it ripped off the post, the owner could actually say, hey, this is my speaker, give it back. And of course you also had some people that like to steal them, and this was a nice little thing saying, hey, you're not the Malta Drive-In Theater, give it back. This one really has seen some better days, but I have a good feeling about it, and we're going to open it up and take a look. All right, let's flip this thing over and see what's inside. And, lovely. Look what we got here. Square head screws. Also, I think they're also called Robertson screws. These are kind of a pain in the neck to get out. Normally, if you're lucky, you'll see flathead screws or Phillips heads, and there are common screwdrivers for both of those. Luckily, I got my mitts on this 10-in-1 screwdriver set, and it's got star bits, it's got square bits, and look, it's got a square bit right here. There we go. We're definitely going to replace these screws. I really don't feel like using them again, but it will be really nice. Okay. My suspicion is these were put in as safety measures again, because your average person might have just had a flathead or a Phillips and maybe wanted to crack in and see what's inside. So they put these safety screws in where you needed a special bit or driver. So, got it covered. All right. Time for the big reveal. Let's pop this open. Okay, well. This, oh, no. Look at the bottom of the speaker. I should not be able to see the grill. This speaker is wrecked. The wiring, I mean, it's not really bad, but I would definitely want to replace that speaker. Potentiometer might still be good. We'll test it out later. As for the case, kind of scuffed up. This is going to need a cleaning. And it looks like this was painted at one point or another, and we're going to have to get that excess old paint off. So we'll take care of that in the next steps. Alright, I've cut the wire away. The wire may still have some good use for it, but I want to get this speaker off. And one of the things that about the Malta Drive-In that I remember, I believe it may have actually been the first drive-in that my parents ever took me to, way back in the day. Now, I don't remember the movie that was playing. Knowing my parents, there was probably a Disney film of some sort. But I do remember that at one point, there was a preview for, of all things, the film Beneath the Planet of the Apes, which was really, really interesting because I was too young to have even seen the first Planet of the Apes. So not only did I not know about that one, I didn't know there was one beneath it too. Okay, let's get the... Look at that. That thing is only good for silent films. I'm going to cut this part off, and then we're going to check the potentiometer to see if it's still got some good juice to it. Okay, so I've got a multimeter set up here, and it should automatically, if I touch these together, this should go to 0. And it does. So let me just touch these to these leads and see what we got. Okay. That's good. Turn the volume a little. I mean, let's try a little higher. I mean, it looks like we're getting something. It is going from 1 to 0. It ain't perfect, but it will work. So I think we can save the potentiometer. The speaker, on the other hand, not a chance. So we've extracted the potentiometer. It should usually have 3 lugs, but this one has 2, and I suspect this part was chopped off, which is not unusual. You can still run a potentiometer for a drive-in speaker with 2 lugs. This collet goes right over this before it goes on the chassis. Then once it's on the chassis, this hex nut will lock it in place. So we're going to save all these. This knob, yeah, I'm thinking I may replace it anyway because it looks like it's seen not only Beneath the Planet of the Apes, but probably Escape from the Planet of the Apes, Battle for the Conquest of, Dracula Meets the Planet of the Apes, like every sort of Planet of the Apes you can imagine, okay? That's probably going to be replaced. Alright, it's time to get rid of some of this cruddy old paint. And for that, we're going to use some aircraft remover. I'm going to spritz this on, leave it overnight, and then hopefully whatever is stuck on here will come off. Well, unfortunately, as you can plainly see, the aircraft remover didn't remove very much paint. It did loosen it up a little, but loosening up does not mean removal. So what I've got here, I'm going to take this bucket of water with some pine cleaner and this little sanding sponge, soak it up, and I'm going to do a little wet sanding on this to try to get as much of the paint off as possible. And I'm going to do this off camera because trying to do this with one hand while holding the camera is a wee bit difficult. So after I scrubbed the unit with the scouring pad and the soapy water, I sprayed the chassis with self-etching primer because paint will not stick to aluminum without self-etching primer. And it looks a lot better. Now I have an idea of how I want to paint this unit, and I'll show that in just a moment. So I really wanted to draw some inspiration for the drive-in speaker's colors, and what better way to get inspiration than to actually visit the drive-in from where the speaker came, seeing as the Malta Drive-In is only a short distance from where I live. And I want you to look at the sign. There it is, Malta Drive-In. And it's a twin drive-in now. It was a single screen back in 1949. Look at the sign itself. Isn't that a beautiful Googie architecture sign with the big letters Malta in reds and yellows and blues? And you know what? I think that's going to be a fantastic inspiration for how this drive-in speaker is going to look. So all I need to do now is get home, get the spray cans out, and get to work. thought you might like to see this as well. In New York State, many businesses and buildings and historic places have landmark signs like this. And the Malta Drive-In is no exception. There's the history of the theater, where it was founded in 1949. It's had a couple of owners. It's still in existence today. And I'm really impressed that I got a drive-in speaker from this building. And it's going to really inspire me to paint it up absolutely beautifully. And after a lot of painting and retouching, here's what I came up with. I repainted the Malta Drive-In speaker to match the colors of the Malta Drive-In speaker sign, the red, the yellow, and the blue. I also added some gold accents on the projected sound logo, as well as on the Malta Drive-In Theater imprint. And now that I've got the case cleaned up, I'm going to start working on the innards. So now it's time to start putting the innards back together. Put the grill back in. We'll go right around these posts. And if you remember, the speaker I took out was absolutely destroyed. So I purchased a new car speaker that will fit perfectly right there. Just a 4-inch speaker. And I'm actually going to set it up right here on those lines. And I'll screw them in with these new screws so that they will be nice and tight. You know, it's amazing to try to find drive-in speakers these days. A lot of them, you can get them on eBay or Etsy or other sites. Craigslist has them once in a while. If you're very lucky, you can find them at a yard sale or at a flea market. So thankfully, I was actually able to reuse the potentiometer and the speaker cable, and that was a big help. So I soldered everything off camera, and I'm now just going to put everything back together. The speaker back is already in the chassis, and it's just a matter of closing this up and putting in the Holt screws, which are safety screws that would be usable for a drive-in speaker at the time. Now, I could theoretically say this is done, but it's not done, because I still need to take care of this little issue with the knob. This was the original knob on the speaker, and as you can see, it's been through a lot. Now I could repolish it or buff it or melt it or do something with it, but that's for another day and another time. Instead, I simply ordered a replacement knob from Detroit Diecast, and this nice red acorn-shaped knob just pops right in place. We're done. Look at that. This looks swank. I really am glad I put the effort into this, and I'm glad you were able to join me on this little journey. Now, I don't have an advertising partner. I'm not sponsored by some website or some gaming company, but I do put my speakers on my Etsy site, which is chuckmillercreatives.etsy.com. You can visit there. You can see my previously restored drive-in speakers, as well as some of my photography and other projects. And thank you very much for joining me on this little restoration journey. I'll be back in a little while with another one. In the meantime, you know the rules. Like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.